Before we get this video started, we want to let you know that this video was not sponsored. All the parts were purchased at full price. So if you want to help us out, please consider subscribing to our channel. Hello everyone, today is a very special day. Today's the day we get to build my dream PC. But before we do that, we have to go back to where this idea originated from. Just about 2 years ago, my PC at the time was pretty much shit. It was over 8 years old and it was giving me a lot of hard time. So I thought to myself, maybe this is the time I get to build my dream PC. So I went on Google and I searched for cool builds, and there it was. There was one particular image that I looked and I thought, wow, this one looks cool. This is what I want to do. But I thought I could do a couple things different to make it more personalized and special to me, with every part specifically picked for this build. However, there was one downside, and that was how much it was going to cost me to build this computer. So I had to save every single dollar for this build for over 2 years. And eventually, here we are. After 2 years of waiting, today is the day. So with that being said, let's jump right into the build. First, let's quickly go over the parts that we will be putting together. For the motherboard, I picked Asus's ROG Extreme Encore Edition. I specifically picked this one because I wanted to have 8 RAM slots. And I know that sounds crazy, but we'll talk about it soon. For the GPU, again, I picked Asus's GeForce GTX 1080 Ti OC Edition. Unfortunately, this was one of the very first parts I purchased, and at the time, the 3000 series were not out yet. This is EK's Pump Reservoir Combo, the Quantum Kinetic Plexi Edition. For the CPU block, again, I went with EK. This is the Velocity RGB Nickel Plexi. And for the Radiator, this is EK's CoolStream PE360 Triple. For the fitting, I went with EK's Quantum Torque, the 6-pack 10x16 black nickel. And for the tubing, I went with soft tubing instead of hard tubing. And I know a lot of guys don't like soft tubing, but I personally like it. I think it gives the build a look of something that was made in the lab. To keep our build cool, I went with EK's Vardar 120ER RGB black fans. To power our build, we have EVGA Supernova 1000 power supply. As for storage, I went with Samsung's 1TB M.2, but then later on I realized maybe that's not enough, so I bought another M.2, but this time I got the 2TB one. For the CPU, I went with Intel's Core i9-9920X. And finally, for the memory, yes, we have 8x G.skill Royale Gold RGB Ram Sticks. Yes, 8 of them. And you might be wondering, why do I need 8 gold RAM sticks? Well, the answer is very simple. Not for performance. This is simply for aesthetics and for looks. I remember seeing a video on YouTube about these RAMs and I immediately fell in love with them. So I decided to get 8 of them. Hence why I wanted to get this motherboard, since it had 8 RAM slots. I also picked up custom sleeves from Lian Li, one for the GPU and one for the PSU. And finally, for the case, this is the Raijintek Paean. This was actually the very first part I purchased 2 years ago. And the reason was because there was such a high demand on this case due to its popularity. Since then, this case has been so difficult to find. A lot of websites are actually sold out. But I was still able to find a couple places where they still had a couple pieces. So I'll leave a link in the description below where you could buy it. Here's a list of every single part that we will be assembling today and the models. Feel free to pause the video or take a screenshot, and I will also leave a link in the description below for this list. One cool thing about this motherboard is the LCD screen. It normally shows you your CPU temperature, but you could also configure it to display other information. It was pretty cool to see that Asus included a screwdriver with the motherboard. That definitely justifies the $800 price tag for the motherboard. I'm pretty sure you could build a badass computer with $800. Another cool feature about this motherboard is you could put up to 4 M.2s with the help of this device. I can't really think why you would want to do that, but I guess it is cool to have options. To install the M.2 drive, I first had to take out the metallic cover by unscrewing it, then I gently installed the drive. Although AMD had better and cheaper processors at the time of making this build, I had to go with Intel since the board I wanted to use only supported Intel chipsets. This is Grizzly's thermal paste. EK was kind enough to send one with the CPU block. One good tip when applying thermal paste is to first put a little bit, then after spreading it around, if you still need more, then you could add some more. If you put too much, it gets really messy because you have to remove it and reapply it all over again. Make sure to remove the adhesive sticker from the back of the CPU block, then screw it in with the screws that it came with. I really like how the CPU block looks when the RGB lights are on, and you could even see sometimes the water cycling through it. To attach the board with the case, there are 12 screws that came with the case. Simply install those screws and screw the board in. I must say having a magnetic screwdriver makes this process a lot easier. I recently built another computer and one of the screws fell inside the board and it was pain in the ass to get it out. Also, it is good to have a little box to store all the screws in, that way you don't lose them. When installing the fans to the radiator, make sure that you know which side is the intake and which side is exhaust. Then simply install the screws that were provided with the fans and you are ready to go. It was pretty easy to install the reservoir. I did not use any clamps to install the reservoir. EK provided a map to drill holes into your case, so I just did that instead. I think it has a cleaner look to it without the clamps. Another reason why I love this case is because all the ugliness like the cables and the power supply, they all go in the back. So in the front, you only have the cool parts. One cool thing about installing 8 RAM sticks is you don't have to worry about the odor since we will be filling up all the available slots. Make sure to take out the plastic stickers on each side of the RAM sticks, otherwise it will cause them to overheat. I first didn't know that they were there since they are transparent. So the graphics card I'm using is the OC edition, but I don't think I will be overclocking it since this will be good enough for what I do. The only game I play is League of Legends, and this card is an overkill for games like this. I had to install the GPU into the very bottom PCIe slot since I did not want to cover the RGB mirror on the board. If you are going to do a similar build during this process, please remember to unplug all the cables from the power supply and only leave the one for the pump. Otherwise, you will fry your board and your GPU. Also, you make sure you cover your parts with towel just in case if you start dripping. Filling up the reservoir with water was definitely my favorite part of this build. I must say it was quite satisfying. All the bubbles and the airs will go away after you let it run for a couple minutes. One cool thing about these fans is that they have different RGB lights installed in each one of them, meaning you could configure the fan to have different colors on different sides. We should see that when we do our first boot up. And there you have it. This is the first boot up without the front panel. I think I don't have to buy a Christmas tree for this holiday. This one will do the job. Also, if you noticed by now, the fans have different colors on each side instead of one color. It looks just how I imagined and more. I sometimes find myself just staring at it instead of the monitor. I honestly don't think I'm going to upgrade any parts in the future other than the GPU, and that is a big maybe, because this one is more than enough for what I do. This is what the build looks like with the panel. I honestly love how it looks with the front panel more than without, especially at night. I'm pretty happy with how this build turned out. My only concern was that maybe 3 fans were not going to be enough to keep the computer cool, but after doing a couple benchmarks, I was really happy to see that the computer was doing anywhere between 30 to 35 Celsius, and that is cooler than any builds I have done before. Here's a list of the parts and their prices, so if you're looking to do a similar build, hopefully this will help you out. Considering how this build turned out, I definitely don't regret waiting 2 years. I had a lot of fun putting this together for you guys, and I hope you like it as well. If you enjoyed watching this build, please consider subscribing to our channel. We like to make tech-related videos and reviews of products that we think are worth sharing with you guys. Once again, thanks for watching. This has been Kyoto Reviews. See you guys on the next one.